The air within the courtroom is denser than normal, as if each breath weighs years of secret and deception. Wood benches groan under the weight of a crowded audience, hushed murmurs against the lofty ceilings. The cameras are in motion, reporters scribbling in their notebooks, and the judge presiding sternly at the bench, her gavel already burnished for order. But the tension isn't really in the silence, it's in the eyes of Kody Brown. She sits in the front, hands locked together in a tight grip, knuckles white. This is not the Kody fans used to know from the world of sister wives' family meals and collective laughter. No, this Kody is hardened by deception, her voice shaking not with fear, but with the raw power of what she is about to say. Tonight, the truth about Kody Brown is finally emerging. Fans of the sister wives looked on for years, as the family struggled to get by. They witnessed the sacrifices, wives clipping coupons, working second jobs, children told there wasn't enough money for extras. Kody had claimed they lived modestly, hand to mouth, getting by on faith and determination. What if it was all a facade? What if, behind the veil of struggle, Kody was constructing a hidden empire, an empire that none of the other women were privy to? Kody hunches forward, her lawyer shoving a pile of papers down the table. The judge looks down, pushing up her glasses. The paper isn't figures, it's proof, concrete proof of something that Kody herself was hardly able to believe when she discovered it. A secret bank account. Not a few forgotten savings, not an accidental deposit, but millions. The words slice through the courtroom like a knife. Millions of dollars. Gasps circulate through the crowd. Robyn holds her mouth in horror, and Kody squirms uncomfortably, his jaw clenching as if the walls are closing in. His eyes flick towards Kody, ablaze with anger, but there's something else as well, fear. Kody's voice grows stronger, unwavering now, honed by years of quiet. He lied to us, all of us, for decades. The judge raps her gavel for silence, but harm is already done. The courtroom is abuzz, reporters writing vigorously, the crowd on the edge of their seats. This is no longer merely a hearing on divorce. This is the dissolution of a man who once espoused loyalty and solidarity, now revealed as the mastermind of deception. Flashbacks resonate across Kody's mind as the narrator's voice brings it all together. The all-night fights, the constant discussions of building on Coyote Pass, the eternal echo of "we don't have enough money." She recalls sitting at the kitchen table, seeing Janelle give over her savings, Meri selling assets just to put money into the family fund. And Kody? Kody always seemed to have an excuse, always a reason why it was tight. But Kody does recall the day she came across the first clue. A misaddressed envelope. In it, a letter from a bank she'd never heard of. Offshore. Accounts in the name of Kody. She thought it was a mistake at first, but as she burrowed deeper, the figures darkened, frightened her. This was no misplaced $100. This was no mistake. It was a deliberate betrayal, planned right in front of their eyes. Her attorney's voice brings her back to the moment. "Mrs. Brown, tell the court what you learned." Kody's lips quiver, but she's determined. "I learned of transfers, offshore accounts, money never intended to be offshore, money that should have stayed within the family." Kody pounds on the table, his voice thundering. "That's a lie." The judge bangs the gavel sharply. "Mr. Brown, one more outburst and you'll be removed." Robyn, sitting beside Kody, leans in close, whispering something that the microphones don't quite catch. But Kody sees it. She knows that whisper isn't comfort, it's fear. Robyn knows too. The secret wasn't Kody's alone. The voice of the narrator becomes loud, filled with tension. This was going to be a tale of love, sacrifice, and starting a future together. But the cracks in the Brown family dream were wider than anyone knew. And tonight, those cracks are going to burst open into a revelation that can shatter everything. Kody swallows hard, her lawyer adding one final sheet of paper to the pile of evidence. The figures don't lie. Offshore accounts with balances in excess of $2 million. $2 million. During an era when the wives were clipping coupons, when children were instructed that college might be a pipe dream, when Kody herself picked up extra shifts just to cover the bills. The treachery is choking. Tears well in Kody's eyes, but she doesn't allow them to fall. She won't crack here. Not in front of him. Not when the world is finally paying attention. Across the room, Janelle shifts in her seat, her lips pressed tightly together. Meri's hands tremble in her lap. They both know the sacrifices they made. They both know what it means to discover that the man they trusted with their futures was living a double life. The tone of the narrator drops lower, more intimate, because this wasn't money. This was trust. This was loyalty. This was the building of a family that had been televised to millions. And if Christine's proof is true, it was all based on a lie. The judge tilts forward again, her glasses slipping down her nose once more. Go on with your proof. Christine's attorney clicks the projector, numbers appearing on a screen for the whole courtroom to witness. Bank names, account numbers, transactions, all of them nails in the coffin of Kody's case. The crowd gasps once more, the sound of it a low murmur running through the room like fire. Kody's face flushes red, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. His head shake wildly. This is being twisted. This is not what it looks like. His statements ring less like confidence, more like desperation. The narrator interrupts sharply. But what did it look like? To Christine? To Janelle? To Meri? It looked like years of sacrifice made into betrayal. It looked like millions that might have built homes, educated children, secured futures, poured into secret accounts. None of them were ever meant to see. Christine's voice cuts through once more, deep and even. You said we didn't have enough. And meanwhile, you were keeping it a secret. The judge holds up a hand. The courtroom grows quiet once more. But something has changed. This isn't about whether there is evidence. It's about why. Why would Kody divert money in secret? Who else was in on it? And most of all, where did it all end up? The author concludes the hook with one last question. Because tonight, the secret bank accounts are no longer a rumor. They're evidence. But the truth behind them, that's the part no one is ready to hear. The courtroom falls into a charged rhythm, papers rustling, pens scratching across notepads as reporters lean forward in anticipation. The judge, face impassive, tugs at her robe and nods to Christine's lawyer. Christine, poised in her seat, breathes in deeply. She has waited years for this moment. Years of seeing her family's sacrifices disappear into thin air as Kody's excuses piled higher. Her lawyer starts gently, carefully as if leading the jury into the very center of betrayal. Mrs. Brown, can you explain to the court, in your own words, how this started? Christine gazes downward at her folded hands, back up at the judge. Her voice is firm but rings with the sting of brokenness. It began with a letter that shouldn't have reached me. The viewers lean in. Even Kody, who has been fidgeting uncomfortably, freezes. Christine goes on. About 2 years ago, I was going through mail, bills, statements, the usual. And there it was, a letter from a bank I didn't know, an international bank. The lawyer nods, urging her on. What did it say? Christine swallows. It validated an account, offshore, in Kody's name. I at first thought it was some sort of scam letter, you know? But then, the figures, the balance wasn't minor. It was, she stops feeling for words at her throat. It was more money than we ever discussed having. Millions. Gasps spread throughout the courtroom, the sound nearly theatrical, as if the whole audience collectively is aware that this isn't about secret stashes. This is something greater. Kody vigorously shakes his head, grumbling under his breath. But Christine doesn't glance at him. She can't. She fixes her gaze on the judge, on reality. The narrator interjects, voice steady but cutting. Picture thinking your family is broke, giving up on your own dreams, your kids' futures, only to find out that the man you trusted most was quietly stockpiling wealth beyond imagination. That's the betrayal Christine suffered. And tonight that betrayal is exposed for the world. Christine's lawyer holds the letter aloft, precisely protected in a plastic folder. Your Honor, we present Exhibit A. The judge nods. The letter is handed forward, examined, then put aside with solemn seriousness. Christine speaks on, her voice becoming harder. When I saw it first, I did not want to believe. I said to myself, perhaps it is some error. Perhaps it is some other Kody Brown. But the information matched. The social security number. The birth date. It was him. I felt like my world had fallen apart. She blinks hard for a second, reliving it. The flashback occurs in her mind. A darkened kitchen. The voices of children in the background. Stacks of bills on the counter. She recalls sitting here, looking at the letter in the yellow light of the lamp, her hands shaking so hard she could hardly grasp it. Kody's words from years earlier ran through her mind. We don't have enough. Everyone has to sacrifice. We have to trust one another. And the whole time he was deceiving her. Sometimes the deepest wounds aren't inflicted by enemies. They are inflicted by the ones you trusted most. Christine is jerked back to reality as her lawyer continues to question her. What did you do then, Mrs. Brown? Her lips compress into a narrow line before she speaks. I confronted him. The audience again stirs, all eyes scanning between Christine and Kody. Christine's voice is shaking, but her rage propels it on. I asked him about it that night. I showed him the letter. And he laughed. He said I was overreacting, that it was business, that I wouldn't get it. Her eyes shine as she addresses the jury. But I got it. He was keeping it from us, from all of us. Kody finally breaks, slapping his hand down on the defense table. That's not true. That's not how it happened. The judge's gavel comes down hard against the wood. Mr. Brown. One further outburst, and I will hold you in contempt. The courtroom remains silent once more, though tension only grows. Christine's lawyer ambles toward the jury box, voice measured and calm. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a simple family dispute. This is a man who professed poverty, as his wives struggled to feed their children, who demanded sacrifice and loyalty, while he privately filled his coffers. The jury gazes, some with furrowed brow, others shaking heads in incredulity. Christine goes on, more assertively now, as if years of restraint are at last bursting out. Janelle gave him her savings. Meri sold parts of her life just to help out. I worked overtime, pinching pennies to scrape together enough. And he informed us there wasn't enough. But there was enough. There was plenty enough. He just kept it concealed. The narrator interrupts, voice biting and slicing. This was not error. This was not negligence. This was betrayal. Masterminded and concealment that was meticulous. And as the evidence comes to light, one question is left hanging. How deep does the deceit run? Christine's lawyer changes tack, his tone accelerating to increase the drama. Mrs. Brown, when you discovered this letter, did you inform the other wives? Christine pauses, her eyes falling. Not initially. I did want to. I attempted to. But she glances over the room at Janelle, who sits stiff, her fists in her lap. I knew it would shatter them. I knew it would ruin what little there was of their trust. Her lawyer encourages softly. But you did. Eventually? Christine nods. Yes, I told Janelle first, then Meri. Their reaction. She leaves the sentence unfinished, emotion rising in her throat. They were devastated. Because it meant that every sacrifice we made was for nothing. It was all a lie. In the room, Janelle's eyes shine, but she does not look at Kody. Meri wipes a tear hastily, her face a mask of stony anger. When the ones you love most betray you, it's not just the money they take. It's the years, the trust, and the dreams that you can never reclaim. Christine's attorney addresses the judge. Your Honor, we have more. This letter was only the start. What Christine learned next will reveal a pattern of intentional concealment, deceit, and manipulation. The crowd stirs once more, whispers moving like flames. Reporters jot down words in a furious scribble. Even the jury moves in their seats, anticipating what's next. Christine settles back, her heart racing. The memory of that first find is seared into her mind forever. But she knows what's next. The files, the transfers, the accumulating evidence will alter everything. And across the courtroom, Kody knows it too. His jaw clenches, his fists are balled. He is a man cornered, a man whose painstakingly constructed walls are tumbling brick by brick. The narrator brings down their tone, voice like a shadow moving across the room. The secret bank account was just the tip of it. What was behind that letter would shake the Brown family to its core. And the courtroom was soon to hear it all. The judge slouches forward, her gavel in hand, eyes scanning the courtroom like a hawk about to dive. The air is thick with silence, punctuated only by the sound of pens scratching and the soft buzzing of an overhead light. Christine's testimony is complete, and the impact of what she has said remains in the room. Now it's Janelle's turn. She stands up slowly, adjusting her blouse, her face pale but resolute. Unlike Christine, Janelle was never a romantic, practical, steady, the wife who balanced budgets, who worked tirelessly to keep the family afloat. If Christine's testimony was fire, Janelle's is ice, cold, icy, cutting through the heart of Kody's defense. Her lawyer walks to the stand. Mrs. Brown, could you describe to the court how you discovered Mr. Brown's concealed financial transactions? Janelle breathes heavily. Christine told me, She brought me the letter. I didn't believe it. Initially, I didn't want to. But when I saw the figures, I knew. Her voice breaks a little, but she gets through it. I knew because I saw something familiar. The transfers. They were the same as my own deposit. Money I thought was going into our family kitty. Gasps ripple once more. The audience leans forward, their interest peaked. Janelle glances at the jury, her eyes welling up with restrained fury. I gave it all to him. I believed him when he told me we didn't have enough. I borrowed money. I drew out accounts, and all the while he was transferring it, concealing it. While I was scrambling to pay bills, while I was going hungry so that our children could eat, he was draining it out of our account. Kody's face grows red. He shakes his head, denying that's not true. That's not how it was. Robyn leans in against him, whispering wildly, but the microphones pick up nothing. The narrator interrupts. Low and even. This wasn't about betrayal. It was about survival. While Janelle fought, giving up her own future, Kody was quietly setting up his. And tonight, the fissures in his narrative are spreading wide. The lawyer waves a document. Janelle's bank statement. Your Honor, Exhibit B. A traceable transfer from the account of Mrs. Brown, through an intermediary, to Mr. Brown's offshore account. The jury moves in, pencils gliding across notepads. The rattle of the stapled bundle landing on the judge's bench rings out like a hammer. Janelle's tone bites. That money was to be used for my children, their education, their future. He said it was an investment for the family. He stole it. Kody bangs his hand on the table once more, unable to restrain himself. That money was family money. I had to guard it. You couldn't possibly know the pressures that were on me. The judge interrupts him with a bang of the gavel. Mr. Brown, one more interruption, and I'll have you ejected from my courtroom. Do you comprehend? Kody glares, but nods mechanically. His jaw locks like a vice. The louder the denial, the sharper the suspicion, because the truth doesn't need to scream to be heard. Janelle goes on, her voice measured but with a seething anger. You told us to trust you. You said every dime mattered. But while we were getting by on nothing, you were sitting on millions. That's not trust. It's stealing. Her lawyer steps back, allowing the words to hang there. The quiet that follows is like judgment itself, dense, crushing, irrefutable. At last Robyn stands up. Her lawyer murmurs frantically, but she shakes her head, putting her shaking hands on the table. Your Honor, may I speak? The judge eyebrows but lets it pass. Robyn's voice shakes, her voice raw and emotional. This is not true. None of this is true. Kody didn't do this to hurt anyone. He was trying to protect us. You don't know what it's like to have everyone against you, to have to think 10 steps ahead. He was just, Christine's voice interrupts her, icy and bitter. Protecting us? Robyn, we starved while he stashed millions. How was that protecting us? Robyn's eyes fill with tears, and the room appears to sympathize with her for a moment. But then the lawyer holds up another piece of paper. Your Honor, Exhibit C. Transfers approved by Mrs. Robyn Brown. Verified signatures. The courtroom gasps a second time. Robyn's tears glaze her eyes, her lips shaking. Christine whispers bitterly. Always her. Always in it with him. Robyn shakes her head wildly. No, I didn't know what I was signing. He told me it was for family accounts, for loans. I didn't. Her words dissolve into sobs. The narrator's voice becomes darker, the tension dense, but tears cannot erase ink, and signatures do not lie. The evidence now pointed not only to Kody, but to Robyn herself. The judge reads the documents intently, her expression impenetrable. She glances up. Mrs. Brown, you will be called on shortly. For the moment, the court will hear additional evidence. Christine and Janelle share a look, speechless but together. For the first time in years, they are in agreement, and that is against Kody. The defense panics, Kody muttering to his attorney in a rage, Robyn holding tissues in front of her pale face. But it does not matter. The story is changing. The lawyer stands before the judge. Your Honor, we now call our next witness, a man who worked directly with Mr. Brown, who has first-hand experience of the financial procedures in question, a whistleblower. The crowd gasps once more. Reporters almost jump out of their seats. The jury tenses, waiting for what is to come. Kody's face goes pale. His lips drop open, like the wind has been knocked from his body. He knows who she is. He knows what is coming. Since secrets are buried, money is hidden. But the truth always speaks. And tonight, that voice is going to walk through those courtroom doors. The judge nods. Call your witness. The back of the courtroom door creaks open. Every head turns as a figure emerges, their silhouette dark against the harsh hallway light. The room is silent. The tone of the narrator falls to a whisper, bordering on conspiratorial. The fissures in Kody's tale were widening. And now, the individual taking the stand possessed the authority to destroy it completely. The witness moves deliberately to the stand, papers under arm, gaze fixed on Kody. The courtroom holds its breath, hearts racing as the truth gets ready to take center stage. The wooden door groans further ajar, its protest echoing like a drumroll in the quiet courtroom. All eyes move to the figure entering, slow and measured, carrying a folder of papers clutched closely to their chests. For an instant, the light from the hallway catches them like a specter from the past. Kody fidgets uncomfortably, his face flushing white. He recognizes this individual, and that alone makes the silence denser. The bailiff leads the figure to the stand. Reporters' pens hover in midair. Eyes of the wives lock forward in anticipation of what is to come. The witness sits down, the oath is administered, and then, at last, the name is heard. Please state your name for the record. My name is Daniel Parker. The man responds, speaking calmly but firmly. I was Mr. Brown's financial advisor for 7 years. Gasps spread through the gallery. Christine straightens, eyes narrowing. Janelle leans forward, mouth open in shock. Even Meri, normally seated in silence, releases a soft breath. This wasn't some vague figure. This was someone who lived in the center of Kody's finances, someone who experienced everything. Christine's lawyer moves forward, his voice crisp with intent. Mr. Parker, can you inform the court why you are present before us today? Daniel looks at Kody, who growls at him like an animal trapped against its will. Daniel swallows and replies, I'm here because I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I worked for years helping Mr. Brown conceal assets, on his orders. I was instructed to create transactions, transfer money into offshore accounts, and pretend the family was in trouble when actually there was more than enough. The courtroom erupts in murmurs, reporters writing wildly. The judge bangs her gavel for silence. Quiet in the courtroom. Christine covers a shaking hand over her lips, tears brimming in her eyes. This is the confirmation she's been waiting for. Not merely her word against Kody's, but words of someone who knows the truth from the inside. When truth walks in the door, the lies begin to quake. And tonight, Kody's deception is quaking beneath the burden of each word. Christine's lawyer walks slowly back and forth. Mr. Parker, can you clarify precisely how Mr. Brown hatched this conspiracy? Daniel nods. It began with routine transfers. Funds transferred from joint accounts to what he termed holding accounts. But over time the accounts grew. By 2018 there were a minimum of 5 active accounts in 3 countries. I was told to employ shell corporations, phony invoices, anything that would make the trail more difficult to track. The eyes of the jury widen. One man shakes his head in disgust. Daniel's voice lowers. I asked him once why. Why keep so much under wraps when his own family was struggling? And do you know what he said to me? He pauses, his eyes ranging the room before settling once again on Christine. He said, they don't need to know everything. If they think we're struggling, they'll remain loyal. A gasp escapes Christine's mouth, and her hand comes down with a thud on the table. He said that? Daniel is nodding, serious. Yes, he figured control was simpler if they thought they needed him utterly. Kody jumps up, his face flushing, his voice thundering. That is a lie. Daniel, you're distorting my words. You don't know what it takes to maintain a family this large together. Sit down, Mr. Brown. The judge commands, her gavel ringing out like thunder. This is your last warning. Kody lowers himself back into his chair, his chest pumping, his fists clenched tightly. Robyn holds onto his arm, breathlessly whispering, stop, just stop. But he jerks his arm loose. Christine glances over at Janelle and Meri, her eyes brimming. This was it. Proof. The words she had known in her heart were finally spoken out loud. Christine's lawyer moves in closer to the witness. Mr. Parker, do you have any evidence to validate your statement? Daniel nods deliberately. Yes, I kept an account. I knew someday the truth would count. He pulls a small item from his folder, a slim black USB drive. He holds it up for the court. The audience gasps once more. Reporters lean so far forward their notepads almost fall to the floor. This drive includes transaction records, emails, and internal memos. Every step of the way, It depicts exactly how Mr. Brown transferred the money, where it went, and who authorized it. The judge leans forward, her eyes narrowing. Are you saying this drive includes evidence directly implicating Mr. Brown in these accounts? Daniel nods once more. Yes, Your Honor. And not only Mr. Brown. The courtroom comes to an abrupt halt. Christine's heart pounds against her chest. Janelle tenses. Meri crouches forward, eyes narrowing. The attorney's tone cuts. Mr. Parker. Who else? Daniel draws a slow breath, his gaze darting toward the defense table. Mrs. Robyn Brown. Robyn gasps, grabbing at her chest, tears streaming down her face. That's not true. I would never. But Daniel interrupts her, his tone firm. Her signatures are on several authorizations. She knew. The room erupts into whispers, the judge's gavel thudding like a drum, demanding quiet. But the surprise cannot be kept inside. Christine's hands shake, holding onto the table until her knuckles whiten. Janelle's jaw drops in shock. Meri emits a low, bitter snort, speaking under her breath. Of course, always her. Evidence doesn't lie. And when the truth is cut into papers and signatures, no amount of tears can erase it. The judge clears her throat, her voice crisp. This court will take a recess to study this evidence. The bailiff removes the USB drive, handing it to the clerk, who tucks it safely away. The courtroom is alive, people chattering like a whirlwind. Christine breathes shakily, her eyes closing for an instant as she senses finally the walls of lies coming down. But across the room, Kody leans into his lawyer, his whispers frantic and angry. His face is a mask of desperation now, no longer control. Robyn dabs her eyes furiously, shaking her head, mouthing words like, I didn't know. But the evidence looms heavy. The narrator interrupts, ominous and foreboding. The whistleblower has spoken. The evidence is in the room. And the secret bank accounts are no longer rumors. They are incontrovertible fact. But what's inside that USB drive is not just cash. It is motive, lies, and betrayal that could shatter the Brown family for good. Christine's eyes open, her eyes locked on Kody. For the first time in years, she sees a shift in the power. He no longer appears like the man who is in charge. He appears like a man who is cornered, naked, and out of excuses. The gavel comes down again. Court will reconvene in 20 minutes. The judge stands, exiting the bench. The audience breaks into a buzz, reporters scrambling for the hallway to peck at their breaking news. Christine, Janelle, and Meri gather close, their voices whispery, their faces drawn but set. Kody is sitting rigid, glowering at the table in front of him, his fists so tight his knuckles are white. Robyn is leaning against him, crying softly, but his gaze doesn't relent. He's not comforting her. He's computing. Because when evidence speaks louder than lies, there are only two choices left: confess or fight to the bitter end. And Kody Brown has never been one to surrender. The imagination's camera hovers over the USB drive, sealed away, radiating like Pandora's box. The secret within is waiting, eager to rip apart all the Browns ever fantasized about being. And when the court resumes, the world will finally know what it contains. The courtroom hums with antsy tension as recess comes to a close. Reporters fumble back into their seats, jurors come back with hushed faces, and the wives sit frozen, awaiting. The court's technical experts have examined the USB drive. Now its contents are set to be revealed. The clerk comes over, a laptop under her arm, plugging it into the giant projector screen hanging over the courtroom. The judge adjusts her glasses, voice crisp. We will now examine the contents of Exhibit D. The jury will view these documents as they are displayed. The first document opens with a click. A spreadsheet occupies the screen, rows and columns filled with numbers and codes. Offshore transfers, shell companies, bank accounts connected to names that no one knows. But at the right-hand end of the document, one line catches the eye. Authorized by Kody Brown. The room is abuzz. Christine puts her hands on the edge of the table, her heart pounding. Janelle draws in a quick breath, her head shaking. Meri breathes softly. My God. The attorney gestures to the screen. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, these are not rumors. These are not allegations. These are documents revealing millions of dollars flowing into accounts created to keep the family blind. Kody fidgets in his seat, his cheeks flushing, sweat forming on his brow. He leans in toward his attorney, his voice furious in a whisper, but his eyes glued to the screen. Numbers can appear cold on paper, But when they have the weight of treason upon them, they burn hotter than flame. The lawyer clicks once more. Another document is brought up. This one is an email. The title line states, "Urgent transfer. Keep quiet." The account is read aloud. "Robyn, sign this already. Don't question it. Let's get this done before somebody notices." Kody, gasps ring out throughout the room. Christine has her hand over her mouth, eyes bulging. Janelle looks to her, whispering harshly, "He got her into it." Meri shakes her head, a bitter laugh curling her lips. The lawyer clicks once more, showing Robyn's response. "Done. Please tell me this won't come back to us." The audience reacts violently, whispers passing like wildfire. Robyn breaks out into sobs, crying over a tissue, her shoulders convulsing. She breathes loudly enough for the mic to record. "I didn't know. I didn't know." But the proof indicates otherwise. The narrator interrupts, soft but biting. "Emails don't weep. Documents don't cry. They sit cold, unforgiving, reminding us that the truth cannot be rewritten by tears." The next document opens, records of transaction, dates, amounts, destinations. A stark figure stares in bold, $2,175,000. The date of transfer is within the same week that Janelle recalls pleading with Kody to assist in paying for her daughter's schooling. Christine whispers, trembling, "That was the week that he informed us we had nothing. That was the week that he informed us we needed to tighten our belts." The audience gasps once more. The judge bangs her gavel. "Order, I will have order in this courtroom." Kody abruptly claps his hand on the table and rises to his feet. His voice is a raging, untrammeled cry. "You don't know. You never knew what it meant to keep this family together. I did whatever I had to do." The judge slams sharply. "Sit down, Mr. Brown, or I will have you removed." His attorney pulls on his sleeve, propelling him back into his chair. But the damage is already done. His explosion still hangs in the air like smoke, inescapable. When desperation breaks loose, it doesn't ring out as defense, it rings out as confession. The attorney clicks once more. Another email. This one is different. Subject, future plans. The lawyer clears his throat and reads, "Robyn, once we get this deal done, we won't have to report to anyone." Christine believes she can check out. Janelle will never question it. And Meri, she doesn't count, will have enough to begin again, somewhere else from all of them. The words explode in the courtroom, like a bomb. Christine gasps out loud, tears streaming. Janelle's face pales, her lips quivering. Meri gapes at the screen, her eyes wide with shock. Robyn cries even harder, her head shaking, mouthing soundlessly, "No, no, no." But the proof blazes on the screen. Irrefutable, irreversible. Christine mutters furiously, "Start over. Without us. With our money?" The tone of the narrator becomes acuter, laden with betrayal. It was never about survival. It was never about family. It was about escape. A plan built on lies, signatures, and stolen futures. The lawyer goes on, his tone calm, although the room trembles with tension. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, these are not the words of a man defending his family. These are words of a man scheming a new life, paid for by deception, betrayal, and theft." Kody thumps back in his chair, his chest bouncing, his eyes crazed. For the first time, he resembles less a patriarch than a man brought to pieces. The lawyer clicks again. The last email materializes on screen. This one is not like the others. It's colder. The headline, Phase 2. The jury leans forward. The wives tense. The attorney begins to read, but then stops, glancing toward the judge. "Your Honor, with your permission, I'd like to reserve this final piece for tomorrow's testimony. Its contents require context." The judge nods gravely. "So ordered." Court is adjourned for the day. The gavel cracks down, ending the session. But the words Phase 2 remain seared into every mind in the room. Christine gasps shakily, holding Janelle's hand. Meri sits with her lips clamped tight, her eyes glued to the screen. Chaos breaks out in the audience. Reporters scrambling, fans buzzing, the weight of the news dawning. Kody slaps his folder shut and charges for the door, Robyn following behind, crying hysterically. His attorney tries to calm him down, but Kody yells, "This isn't over. None of this is over." The narrator brings the session to a close, voice low and ominous. The electronic trail has been laid bare. Transfers, emails, signatures, a map in black and white of betrayal. But that last email, the one labeled Phase 2, concealed secrets that no one in that courtroom was ready to confront. The courtroom is abuzz, with the previous revelation, investments and property deeds linked to Robyn's family. Whispers of the audience spread like a tempest across the benches. Journalists write desperately, and Christine, Janelle, and Meri sit rigid in shock. The judge raps her gavel 3 times. Order. We will proceed. Christine's attorney clears his throat, his voice sharp. Your Honor, at this time, the prosecution requests to call Mrs. Robyn Brown to the stand. The room stills. All eyes turn to Robyn. Her hands tremble as she clutches a crumpled tissue, her face blotched from tears. She hesitates, whispering frantically to Kody, but he grips her arm and hisses, "Go, you'll fix this." Christine catches the moment and grumbles bitterly, "Always her." Robyn stands up, stumbling slightly as she moves toward the witness stand. She raises her hand in the oath with trembling fingers, her voice little more than a whisper. When she sits, her eyes dart around the jury, then glance at Christine, Janelle and Meri. Their faces are impassive, etched with anguish and anger. Christine's lawyer doesn't hesitate. "Mrs. Brown, don't you deny that your name is on several of these transfers associated with these secret accounts?" Robyn blows her nose, tears streaming down her face. I signed documents. Yes, I just didn't have any idea what they were. Kody said it was for loans, for family protection. I trusted him. I always trusted him." The lawyer clicks again, and the projector screen illuminates with one of Robyn's signed authorization. "And when you responded back to his email by saying done, please tell me this won't come back to this. What did you mean by us, Mrs. Brown?" The courtroom murmurs. Robyn softly gasps, putting her hand over her mouth, as if trapped in her own web. I was afraid. He told me it was complicated. I didn't know everything. I just wanted the family to be safe." Christine bangs her hand down on the table, voice shaking. "Safe? We were hungry while you signed over millions." The judge bangs his gavel. "Mrs. Brown, you will be quiet until spoken to." Christine lowers herself back, tears streaming down her face, but her gaze remains piercing on Robyn like daggers. The courtroom is not so much a forum of law. It's a battlefield of truth, where every word has the potential to cut deeper than any blade. The lawyer walks slowly. "Mrs. Brown, were you aware that money was being invested in properties affiliated with your own family members?" Robyn shakes her head wildly. No, I swear I didn't know. I never asked where the money went. I didn't want to know." Meri growls nastily, just loud enough for microphones to hear. Convenient ignorance. Robyn's tears fall faster, her body trembling. "You don't understand what it was like. Kody said he had it under control. He said if I just trusted him, everything would be fine. And I believed him. I always believed him." The lawyer's voice turns icy. "So you're going to ask this jury to believe that you approved millions of dollars in transfers, never once asking where the money was being sent?" Robyn gapes at the table, her shoulders quivering. "Yes, because that's what wives do. We trust." The jury changes, some with scowls, others expression. Christine's lawyer clicks again. Another email is highlighted on the screen. "Once this is done, we'll have enough for us. Don't worry about Christine. Don't worry about Janelle. Don't worry about Meri." Robyn's response waits below it in black and white. "I just don't want them to find out." The crowd gasps collective. Christine suppresses a sob. Janelle's hands shake as she clenches her notes so hard the paper buckles. Meri gives a chilly laugh. "Didn't want us to know? Guess what, Robyn? We did." The judge raps her gavel again. "Order." Robyn weeps more fiercely, shaking her head. "I didn't say it like that. I was afraid. I didn't want to fight. I didn't. She trails off into a broken sob. The narrator interrupts, voice low and somber. "Tears may fall like rivers, but they cannot wash ink from the page. All the words on those screens tell a tale, and tonight, that tale is betrayal." Christine's lawyer takes a step back. No further questions at this time. Robyn's attorney stands up in a hurry, his voice softer. "Mrs. Brown, did you ever personally benefit from these accounts?" Robyn blots her eyes. "No, I never saw the money. I never spent it. I did everything because I trusted Kody." Her attorney nods compassion. "So you were misled." Robyn nods quickly, grasping the lifeline. "Yes, I was manipulated, just like them." Christine sneers. "Don't you dare compare yourself to us." The air is tense. The jury gazes, torn between pity and distrust. Sometimes the victim and the accomplice become indistinguishable in the blur. And in the blur, trust and betrayal become interchangeable. But the moment isn't yet spent. Christine's lawyer rises again for cross-examination. Mrs. Brown, are you claiming you knew nothing of Phase 2? Robyn shakes her head rapidly. No, I didn't. I never knew he was going to. He never said that to. The lawyer smiles cruelly. Then why, Mrs. Brown, did you say in one of your messages, how will we tell the children? The courtroom erupts in murmur. Christine gasps hard. Janelle's jaw falls. Meri's eyes compress to slits. Robyn's tears freeze. She stares at the screen as her own words glow in black and white. She shakes her head slowly, whispering, I didn't mean it like that. The attorney pounces. So you admit, Mrs. Brown, you were aware of a plan. A plan that would separate the children from their mothers. A plan that would use them as leverage for Mr. Brown's escape. The wives blow up simultaneously. Christine screams, her voice torn with outrage. You would use our children? Janelle bangs her fists on the table. You are going to take them away from us to shield your deceptions? Meri speaks cold and shrill with rage. Monsters! The judge pounds her gavel angrily. Order! Order! One more word out of you and I will empty out this courtroom. But the harm is done. The picture of their children, utilized as pawns in Kody and Robyn's game, looms in the background like a cloud of smoke. The jury wriggles in their seats, faces twisted in distaste. Robyn cries helplessly, nodding her head, muttering, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. But the reality on screen cannot be erased. The narrator's tone drops, heavy and black. This was no longer a matter of money. It was about family, about children trapped in the middle of greed and deceit. And the courtroom had only started to experience the full bitterness of the truth. The judge orders adjournment, her gavel crashing with a loud report. We will resume tomorrow at 9 a.m. Court is dismissed. The wives collapse into whispers and tears, gripping each other tightly. Christine's face is streaked with anger and heartbreak. Janelle stares at Robyn with pure fury. Meri mutters under her breath, I'll never forgive them. Kody rises, gripping Robyn's arm as she sobs into his chest. His face is twisted, rage and desperation burning behind his eyes. This isn't over, he growls. The narrator finishes, voice crisp and ominous. The secret bank accounts had uncovered deception. The emails had uncovered betrayal. But now, the children had joined the fight. And what was to come would shatter the courtroom wide open. The courtroom is abuzz as the bailiff brings the room to order. Yesterday's bombshells continue to linger in the air like smoke from a fire. The rumors of children being used as bargaining chips. Journalists whisper among themselves, their pens ready for what will surely be the most gut-wrenching session thus far. The judge bangs her gavel. We will continue. Prosecution, call your next witness. Christine's lawyer rises, his voice crisp. Your Honor, the state calls. Sarah Collins. The name rings out through the room. Christine's eyes blink in shock. Janelle's head whips toward the door. Even Kody stops, his eyes scrunching. The door swings open, and a woman in her 40s enters, a leather folder clutched to her chest. She's dressed in a suit, but her face is pinched, weighed down with the secrets she's shouldered too long. Christine breathes, I know her. Sarah struts into the courtroom, heels clicking on the floor. She is sworn in, her eyes fixed on Kody. The lawyer does not waste any time. Miss Collins, can you inform the court how you are affiliated with Mr. Brown? Sarah breathes out. I used to be Mr. Brown's assistant. I handled communications, organized meetings, and occasionally his personal mail. Christine's heart sinks. She recalls Sarah, the reserved woman who lingered at the periphery of family gatherings, always lugging files, always leaning into Kody's ear. The attorney nods. And why are you here today? Sarah's gaze shifts to Christine, then to Janelle, then at last back to Kody. Because I could no longer be quiet. I was told to erase emails, to shred papers, to conceal transactions, but I didn't erase everything. I couldn't. The courtroom gasps. Sarah picks up the folder. I copied them. Emails, letters, evidence of what he was doing, evidence of what he and Robyn discussed when nobody else was present. Christine clasps Janelle's hand. Harry slouches forward, white-faced, every lie casts a shadow. And when people rescue those shadows, the truth can't be buried. The attorney gestures to the bailiff to bring out the folder. It's opened and copies are distributed to the judge, jury, and opposing counsel. The attorney highlights one email on the screen. The subject line is cutting them out. The attorney reads aloud. Robyn, the others will never see this coming. Once the accounts are moved, Christine, Janelle, and Meri will have nothing. They'll scream, but it won't matter. They won't be able to prove a thing. The courtroom erupts in murmurs. Christine's body shakes with rage. Janelle covers her mouth, her shoulders trembling. Meri's lips press tight, her eyes burning with tears. The lawyer clicks once more. Another email scrolls across the screen. This one icier. Once we sell the land, the profit will be ours alone. They'll think it's still tied up in paperwork. By the time they realize we'll be long gone. Christine bangs her hand on the table, her voice cracking. He intended to wipe us out. The judge slams down her gavel. Mrs. Brown, compose yourself. But the jury notices it. They notice the anguish on her face. The deception is no longer in doubt. The lawyer goes on. Miss Collins, were these emails authored by Mr. Brown? Sarah nods resolutely. Yes, I was told to delete them. But first I forwarded them to myself. I couldn't destroy them. I knew one day they'd have to be viewed. Kody springs to his feet, his words yelling with anger. You traitor! You had no right. Those were private. You don't know what we were dealing with. The judge bangs her gavel. Mr. Brown, sit down. One more outburst and I'll hold you in contempt. Kody slumps back into his chair, his chest stuttering, his face contorted with anger. Robyn's grasping his arm, crying, but he pulls away, his anger too intense. The higher the wall of lies, the harder the collapse when truth finally breaks through. The lawyer sends one last email. The title, Final Goodbye. The room tenses. Sarah describes gently, her voice cracking. This was the last message I got before I left. He asked me to send it to a private account. The lawyer reads, Robyn, when this is done, we'll finally be free. No more debts, no more begging, no more Christine questioning me, no more Janelle doubting, no more Meri holding me back. Just you and me, and the life we were meant to have. Christine releases a strangled sob and falls into her chair. Janelle buries her face in her hands, her shoulders shuddering. Meri finally cracks, slapping her hand on the table, her words acidic and raw. Decades of loyalty, and this is what we meant to you. The courtroom is absolutely silent, save for the weeping of the women who once centered their lives on Kody. The jury looks at him, their faces a blend of shock and horror. Sarah's voice rings out above the silence. He never loved you, not the way you loved him. To him you were pieces on a board, nothing more. Christine raises her head, tears pouring. And you knew, all along you knew. Sarah nods, guilt written on her face. I tried to get out earlier, but I was afraid. He made us all afraid. The judge takes a deep breath, pushing up her glasses. The evidence is conclusive. This court will now proceed toward deliberation. The jury moves, preparing themselves. The room seems to be holding its breath. Christine leans in towards Janelle and Meri, her voice low and strong. This is it. This is the moment. Across from him, Kody sits rigid, his gaze shifting like a caged animal. Robyn weeps softly next to him, but he doesn't glance her way. His jaw tightens, his fists shake. For the first time ever, he seems beaten. The narrator's voice drops, laden with foreboding. The betrayal has been revealed. The deceptions have been broken. And now the only one left is judgment. But judgment tends to cut deeper than anyone imagines. The judge clears her throat. The jury will now prepare for deliberation. When we return, I will give you the ruling. The gavel comes down. The wives hold on to one another, shaking, crying, their hearts pounding. Kody looks at the table, white and shattered. Robyn whispers, "What do we do now?" But Kody doesn't respond, because when betrayal is this deep, forgiveness is no longer the question. Survival is. The narrator concludes, the next words spoken in this courtroom will decide not just the fate of millions of dollars, but the fate of the family itself. The courtroom is holding its breath. The tension is so thick that it might break at the swift stroke of a pen. All eyes are fixed on the jury box, where men and women sit with papers in front of them, their faces somber. There has been hours of testimony, heaps of evidence, tears, rage, betrayal, all leading to this moment. The bailiff enters with the verdict of the jury. The room comes alive, a wave of excitement rippling through the benches. Christine holds Janelle's hand so hard her knuckles turn white, while Meri sits rigidly forward, unblinking, her jaw locked firm. The aisle across from her, Robyn shakes, tissues torn in her lap. Kody reclines in his chair, arms folded, his face pale but obstinate. A man defying the world to smother him. The judge brings up her gavel. Court is back in session. The jury has reached a verdict. A silence descends like a blanket. You could have heard a pin drop. The foreperson stands up, a piece of paper shaking in their hand. In the case of Brown versus Brown, on the issue of fraud, concealment of property, and breach of fiduciary duty, the words sit heavy, each syllable heavy with weight. We, the jury, find in favor of Christine Brown, Janelle Brown, and Meri Brown. The room erupts. Gasps, screams, shouts. Mayhem hangs in the air. Christine buries her face against Janelle's, weeping hysterically. Janelle holds her close, her own tears falling freely. Meri places both hands over her mouth, her shoulders heaving with relief and anger. The judge bangs her gavel in a furious gesture. Order, order in the court. But the flood cannot be contained. The wives weep, the reporters yell, the onlookers hum. Years of hidden anguish burst forth in one mutual release. Because when justice finally comes, it doesn't whisper. It roars. The judge's throat clears, her voice authoritative. In addition, the court directs Mr. Kody Brown and Mrs. Robyn Brown to repay the sum of $2.6 million in diverted funds. Offshore assets and property titles in doubt will be taken and reallocated to the plaintiffs. Custody leverage claims are dismissed as unsubstantiated, but recorded as proof of ill will. Christine exhales a loud sob of relief. Janelle whispers tears. We did it. We did it. At last. Meri creeps forward, her face pale, her eyes fixed on Kody. You lost, she whispers icily. Over the aisle, Robyn slumps back in her seat, crying uncontrollably, her body shaking as she grips Kody's arm. What do we do? What do we do? She wails. Kody sits immobile, his expression unreadable, fists clenched, jaw braced, but his eyes give him away. Wild, empty, defeated. The narrator interrupts, dark and introspective. For years Kody Brown preached loyalty, unity, sacrifice. For years his wives bore the load, believing the dream, believing him. But tonight the facade has crumbled. The empire that he created was a mirage, and the truth has laid it waste. The judge bangs her gavel again. This court is adjourned. The wives slump into each other's arms, sobs and laughter of relief mix. Christine breathes softly. He can't hurt us anymore. Janelle just nods, streaming tears. We have our lives back. Meri gives the first smile in years, shaky. The crowd starts to stir, chattering excitedly, cameras popping like lightning. Reporters dash for the door, voices already bellowing headlines into phones. Kody Brown loses millions. Family betrayal exposed. But Kody doesn't stir. He sits like a statue, his eyes fixed on the table, frozen in horror. Robyn pulls on him, crying, please, please, say something. But he doesn't reply. He's empty, shattered. The ruin of a man is not quantified in dollars. It's quantified in the quiet that comes, when even his words are too small to rise. Christine rises at last, facing Kody. She speaks with low, steady tones, shaking with anger and emancipation. You took everything from us. But tonight we took it back. Kody's eyes flash to her. But there is no fight in him, no spark, only the dark shadow of a man who gambled honor for greed, and lost. The voice of the narrator drops, introspective and eerie. The secret bank accounts were never really about money. They were about trust, about the cracks in a family constructed on promises it was never going to be able to keep. Tonight those cracks gaped wide open, and from them seeped truth, raw, agonizing but inescapable. The wives exit the courtroom as a group, heads held high even with tears. Cameras click, microphones pushed into their faces, questions thrown in every direction. Christine grasps Janelle's hand, Meri on her other side. Together they exit, not as sister wives, but as survivors. Back inside, Kody and Robyn stay behind. Robyn cries into his shoulder, pleading, begging. But Kody just looks ahead, his silence deafening. The narrator concludes, weighed down with gravitas. And thus the Brown family dream, the dream of wholeness, of fidelity, of common love, dissolves not in levity at a dinner table, but in sorrow in a courtroom. Betrayal can purchase you time, but it always expires. And when it does, it takes everything with it. What do you think? If you were Christine, Janelle, or Meri, could you ever forgive betrayal so deep? Or is some trust irreparably broken? Let me know in the comments.